Hello, fellow Crusaders, and welcome to our special episode. My name's Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And today, we're going to be doing a non-spoiler and spoiler discussion for the movie that came out this weekend, Twisters. This was probably one of our most anticipated films of the year. We've said this, I think, was it last year when we were still doing Weekly Crusaders, where we talked about Twister, that this is a movie that Brian and I love. I think this was both Brian and I's first DVD purchase ever was Twister.
I think it was most people's first DVD purchase.
Most.
It was one of the day one. It was the only new release on day one. Yeah,
exactly. We still have those. I still have it downstairs, and I know Brian does too because I think you showed it during that episode that you still had it. But yeah, Twisters was one that we were excited for. A, because Twister, but B, also because Glenn Powell. Once again, an actor that even before everyone got all, gung-ho crazy about him, we've been talking about Glenn Powell for years, people. We've been praising Glenn Powell for the past 4+ years on this channel, talking about how this guy deserves to be recognized and deserves to be in the limelight, and he's just finally now coming to fruition, which makes me and Brian feel so great that we've kind of spoke it into the world. And now
I think we're the ones that pushed him to that success. Just
we are. So Glenn Powell should give us a thank you. Not even a thank you. Just come up and hang out for a little bit because he sounds like a cool motherfucker to hang out with. But yeah, Glenn Powell, also Daisy Edgar Jones, who I talked about, was it 2 years ago when was it Fresh came out. I was like, this girl has something. And then she did Where the Crawdads Sing, and now, Twisters is her next big one here. Of course, Anthony Ramos, we know from Hamilton and The Heights. So solid cast. I also didn't realize until I started watching the movie that the new Superman was in this movie. Because I didn't realize it until I was watching. I was like, why does he look familiar to me? And I was like, oh, wait, that's Superman. David, is it Cornsweet? Cornsweet. Well, that's going to be a fun name for people to use against him when that comes out. So we got him in the movie. But yeah.
Apparently auditioned for Superman while he was making this movie because the director said he came back from auditions and he could kind of tell. He couldn't tell him that he got the part, but they could just tell from he was carrying himself. Like, he totally got that.
Oh, they did some interview after everything came out saying that he finally did tell them, and they all got like super excited and started cheering and everything and how happy they were for him and stuff. But yeah, so going into Twisters, because you've seen it twice now, and I've only seen it the one time. Brian likes to see things twice, especially if we're going to talk about it, because he likes to keep it, in his head. What were your non-spoiler thoughts going into this? As it was happening.
Yeah, so going into this, like you said, I was super excited just because it was another Twister movie. It's Twisters. But, it had Glenn Powell, which raised it up even more. You talked about the supporting cast, Anthony Ramos and that. And then we found out we didn't realize Katie O'Brien was in it till just fairly recently. Like, oh, wait, didn't know. And she's
I always say her first name, Maura
Tierney.
Thank you, Tierney from ER and Iron Claw from last year.
So it's got a great cast to it. So I was excited to go see it. Went and saw it. First time we went and saw Dolby Theater, and then went and saw it in IMAX this time. And I really enjoyed the movie. Now, when the first time I watched it, I think I was a little bit disappointed. Not that it was a bad movie, but I think I said it's inferior to the first one in every possible way, except for special effects, obviously. But it's just like I think it wasn't quite as fun as the first one. I mean, there were fun moments and stuff, but it wasn't as fun. And the other major thing I said was missing was the original score from Mark Mancina, because the Twister score is awesome. I love that score. It's classic. It's memorable.
And this one
was in the soundtrack too. This one was fine, but it's pretty forgettable as far as the score. I couldn't tell you anything about it. But overall, I enjoyed it. I just think it wasn't as good as the first one. Went and saw it again today, and I don't know if it's because now my expectations, it's one of those things where now I know what I'm getting into. And I enjoyed it even more than I did the first time. So it's still not as good as the first one, I think. I think there are still, it could have been a little more fun, not quite so serious all the time. Like Glenn Powell, a lot of the times he's having a blast. But I really wish that his character could kind of been the main character, because he is kind of just a supporting role to Daisy Edgar Jones, and she is fine, but I think more of his energy and charisma would have gone a long way in this movie. But that being said, Loved it. I think obviously the special effects were awesome in it. I mean, it's like seamless nowadays. Like you look back at the old one, they hold up pretty well, but you can
They
kind of
do.
tell that, okay, these are, they look like CG graphics, all the very good ones, especially for the time. But this one, I mean, everything looks essentially real. Some of the stuff is over the top and the situations are unbelievable, but it looks real. And obviously watching it in Dolby and IMAX theaters, it, the whole experience of it was awesome, just the sound and everything. So I actually had a really good time, enough to obviously to see it a second time in 3 days. So
yeah. See, here's where I'm coming from on it, because I only disagree on one part of what you said, but much like you with your second experience, I had already heard from you because you got to see it on Wednesday, and I didn't get to see it until Friday. So I had already heard from you about your thoughts on it, without going into super great detail, but the inferior in every way and all that kind of stuff. I already heard that, and then I had other people.
Let me just note though, when I say that, it makes it sound like it's like, oh, this one doesn't live up to the original, and I'm just saying the original's better. I'm not saying it's a complete pile of shit or anything compared to the original. Just want to clarify that.
Well, the first one's iconic.
I know.
Yeah, so it's not fair to put Twisters up against Twister,
right? Which is why I didn't want that to sound so negative. I was just saying it's not as good as the original. That's all I was saying. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, give it time, we'll probably love it just as much, if not more. But I had that, and then I had one of our friends, Amaru, who is a critic for it as well, and he was kind of very negative on it. And I was like, oh shit, like I don't know if I should get excited for this anymore, or if I should just go in with tempered expectations. And I think it was because I went in with lower tempered expectations that I didn't really see all the negativeness that you guys potentially saw. Now, I will admit the score and the soundtrack, not nearly as strong as the first one. There are still songs from the first movie that I hear this day, and my brain immediately goes to Twister. Yep. I don't think there's a single song in this movie that's going to make me go back and think of Twisters. And just there was one part in the movie where I felt like they were trying to do Twisters score, where it was like the like try to make it like fun. But I was like, no, you guys haven't earned that yet. You haven't earned that score yet. So I mean, but yeah, the score is not awful by any means. But no, it is not. It's
serviceable. Memorable. It's just not memorable. Yeah,
exactly. It's just not memorable like Twister was. But yeah, I will say this: my theater, shocker, because my theater locally is not good. The audio was messed up for probably about the first 15-20 minutes of the movie.
You didn't end up traveling to see it in IMAX?
No, we stayed close to home because health issues and stuff like that. No. Yeah. So we wanted to go see it, so we just stayed close. But the vocals, it felt like the movie itself was like at a 7, but the vocals was at a 3. Ooh. And like I heard it in the trailers, like how soft it was. I was like, but they had subtitles up, and I was like, why are the subtitles up for the trailers? I've never seen that before. I was like, we can have subtitles for the theater, and I was like, well, it's the trailers. I'm not gonna worry about it just yet. And then the movie starts, and I'm like, oh, you can't hear shit. Like it's not even a tornado hasn't even happened yet, and it felt like your ears were like closed, and like you're just hearing like everyone's like talk like this, and I'm just like, oh hell no, I no way. And there's an older dude next to me, and he got up, and I was like, I hope he's going to go talk about, because he was in back in. I was like, there's no way he went to the bathroom, and he didn't come back with food. And after the first initial scene, that you know what I'm talking about, I was like, okay, I gotta get up, and I never get up. So my girlfriend was like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, I'm fucking getting this fixed, because there's no way once the tornado's legit hit that I'm going to be able to make it through this movie with, and I was surprised like no one else was freaking out about this. And of course I went down there and I talked to the usher. He was already in there going, yeah, I'm trying to listen to it. I was like, yeah, man. I was like, it's like at a volume 3. I was like, it sounds like your ears are cupped. Like you can't hear it. I go, we're right under the speaker too. And I was like, if I can't hear it right under the speaker, there's a problem. So it took about till Glenn Powell showed up in the movie for the vocals to finally like actually be able to, I can hear them now.
They did fix it. Okay, good.
Yeah, they fixed it. But it took about 15-20 minutes. But I will say this, for me, that first 15-20 minutes of the movie, though, is the weakest part of the film. I had a real problem with the opening. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the spoilers, because I don't want to spoil that part. But I had a real problem with the spoiler, or with the first part of the film. But once Glenn Powell does show up, I do feel like the movie does find its footing. I feel like the movie really started to feel fun and very much Twister. Yes, there are serious moments in the film, but the first one had serious moments too. I think the biggest problem that you guys maybe have with in terms of it lack of fun or anything like that is this time around we're following this Daisy Edgar Jones, who's Kate. Is it Kate?
Kate.
Yeah, she's Kate. And she's basically, I guess, like the Helen Hunt, but she's also the Bill Paxton, technically, because she can sense the tornadoes like Bill can in the first film. And the problem is because of what happens to her in the first part of the film, she's playing a very kind of closed off, reserved character, which is much different than what she was in the beginning of the movie, where she was kind of bubbly and excited and everything. So she has to act very reserved through most of the movie. And then there are like little moments where she kind of like lets herself come out. And that's when you can see Daisy Edgar Jones. I'm sorry, I'm just going to call her Kate. When Kate's really having fun in the film. And, you know, Glenn, he knows what movie he's in. He's in fucking Twister. And he's having fun. And we're following these two different groups, whereas like in the first Twister I called them the wild card group, which was Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton's group, and then you had the corporate group played by Carl Elway's group. But this time we're following the corporate group, and Tyler's the wild card group, and they're kind of just there doing their thing. But I don't think, like, a lot of people, you guys made me out to think that like he was barely in the film because you're like, oh, they needed more Glenn Powell, I'm like, he's in this a lot, guys.
No, I didn't feel like he was barely in the film, but I think he definitely was a supporting player to.
I
did not have.
Here's the thing.
Focus on her as much as him. Like he was only there, like basically if she was in the scene too.
Yes, but based off of his character, I felt like the story is stronger following her and bringing him in, and then him becoming a huge part of her story. Than it's starting off with him just being this YouTube Wrangler guy, and then here comes Kate's story. I don't think it would have flowed as well. I think bringing him in like Han Solo in A New Hope, because that's what he fucking is. He's Han, except we're following Princess Leia through the story and not Luke in terms of A New Hope. The story wouldn't flow if we followed Han from the start of the film. He comes in as that secondary character and becomes a main character, much like Tyler does in this. I felt like Anthony Ramos was solid in the film. I would have loved to have him have a little bit more in the movie. David Cornsweet, I thought was fine at being kind of an asshole, but I would have loved. He was kind of more of the Cary Elwes of it all in this film. I think he was serviceable in the movie, but they didn't really give him up too much to really.
I think
he's not the main.
Besides the three leads, I think that pretty much everybody else were fine, but they didn't have as much personality as the ones from
and that's where I think you get the whole. It's not as fun.
Yeah, a lot of it was
because, and that's because with the original film with Twister, the wild card group, we spent so much time with them, just interacting with them, talking, having them have their sit downs at Helen Hunt's aunt's house, and you got to find out about Dusty. What's that?
I said Aunt Maeve. That was no, it was Meg.
I want to say it was Meg, but I didn't know if I was 100% correct on it. But it was hanging out at Aunt Meg's, or finding out why Dusty is the way he is, and you have the map guy played by Alan Ruck, and you had the other dudes, and you lived in with that group, so you got into with their jokes and their banter, and you had fun with them. With
this one, you're splitting your time.
Exactly, but this one you are splitting your time. So Katie O'Brien doesn't get much to do except be there. The rest of the cast, you have the drone girl, and you have his best bud, who I will admit I talked mad trash about in the trailers with the twins. But you know what? You spent 5 minutes in the movie like, that totally makes sense that he would do that. I'm not mad at it anymore.
I never had a problem with the trailer. I figured he was going to be like their Dusty this time, and I had no problem with him.
I had a problem with it in the trailer, but once I watched the movie, I was like, okay, I need to cut the shit. He's fine. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. He's like the Dusty of the group. But I felt like that was where I think the fun wasn't as strong, is because we didn't get to live in with the wild card group, and the wild card group is where the fun is. Now, we eventually do progress with them and get to know them a little bit more, but it's in the last act of the film. But I agree. The special effects, I think, looked great. I do think the Twisters looked a little more prominent in the original. A lot of this just did look like a lot of cloud wind. Whereas with Twister, it was very much, you see the tornadoes, and they looked gorgeous. Even by today's standards, I was watching the first one before I saw the other one the other night. And I thought, I was like, man, these still look great. They don't look fake. The only thing that looked fake was the cow, and for obvious reasons, you know, but I thought it looked good. I like a lot of the aesthetics that this film gave. I do think the action sequences definitely amped up and matched the first one, if not exceeded, because of where we were at. I think the final act, the big final act tornado, I thought was really fucking well done. I loved the callbacks that we did get outside of one major one, which I'll talk about in the spoilers. But yeah, at the end of this, I had a blast watching this. I had a whole lot of fun watching this. It's just, it's unfair, like I said, to try to counter it with Twister, because that's a totally different film. I mean, it's not a different film, but it's different because it's a classic to a lot of people, and it's
the
beloved.
same problem we had with Furiosa. Is like, I love Furiosa, but it's like it's whether you like it or not, it's going to be measured against, you know,
Mad
Fury
Max.
Road. And like,
once again, it's a totally different movie. Same world, different movie. And Twisters is a different film than Twister. But yeah, I had fun with it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I gave it an 84. Myself and my girlfriend both had a blast watching it. Like I said, not a strong first 15, 20 minutes, but once Glenn Powell comes on screen, I feel like the movie finds its rhythm, finds its mood, and it doesn't look back from there. And I thought it was great the whole rest of the way through. What did you end up giving it? Because I know where you had it at, but did your score change after the second viewing, or did you?
Mine's at 4 stars, which is basically like 8 out of 10. So yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So both of us gave it 4 stars. But now we're gonna jump into the spoiler aspects of the show. So if you guys have not seen Twisters yet, stop now, come back after you see it, or if you want to just be spoiled about everything, then feel free to stay on, you weirdos. But let's go ahead and dive in. So here's my part that I had a problem with. I did not like Dorothy showing up. And here
I did.
Okay, let me hear your reason why you did, because my girlfriend did too, but I have a real personal problem with Dorothy popping up, and it put me in a bad spot.
So I feel like Dorothy did exactly what we needed it to do. Is because going into this movie, we still said, like, what is this movie? It's not a reboot. It's not a sequel. We don't know what this movie is. And by having that they have a Dorothy there, and it's not with the little Coke can things, it's with actual finalized product, you know, with the little propellers or whatever you want to call them. It basically told us, okay, the first movie happened, it existed, and now this technology is being used by tornado researchers for the last 25, 30 years.
My girlfriend, because she's one of those people that will just research the shit out of the movie once it's over, Kate and that group in the first movie, they got that from their school, which is the same school that Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton were working for in the first film. So that's why they got Dorothy. That's the same university. So same school. So there's the connection point.
That's what I'm saying. It tells us that even though there's no character carryover, this is the same world, because that first movie happened. They created that thing, and now, like I said, for the past 2-3 decades, they've been using this, and they have one of them that they're using to measure data as well. And so I thought that's because that's the only one scene it was basically in, and I think it did a great job of establishing how this connects, but without being, hey, it's the same people,
Here's my problem with it. So the whole point of the first Twister was to get Dorothy shot up into the tornadoes so they can better understand tornadoes. So that way, the main goal was what from that, if you remember? What was the main goal of shooting the things up?
So they could collect data, and they could basically predict more tornadoes to have more early warning systems.
What does not happen at all in this fucking film? Early warning systems.
This is the other problem I have with this movie.
And this is my whole big fucking problem, is because Dorothy is in this movie, that means that we are in the same world as Twister, and the warnings are non-existent in this movie. The one warning they all got, the tornado was already fucking there, which means that everything that they set out to do in the first film fucking amounted to nothing. It didn't work. It didn't help. It didn't do shit. And that bothers me.
Well, the problem is because what this movie establishes is that everyone who lives in Tornado Alley is a fucking idiot. Because I was thinking this through.
I will say this. Hold on. I will say this as a defense. I lived in Nebraska. And when the tornado sirens go off, people don't run to the shelter. They go outside and look at the sky and go, we're good. Just keep going.
Like that lady in the hotel. There's no tornado.
Yeah, and you know what? My last year living in Nebraska, I think we had 4 tornado sirens a week for like 4 straight weeks. Not a single fucking tornado hit. And it got to the point where we're like, stick your head out. No, we call Omaha like was a dome, where everything looks like it's coming to Omaha, and then as soon as it got to us, it just diverted or dissipated. It never hit.
Because the heat that the cities produce make it the weather
The
avoid it. But
the week after I left and came here, a tornado hit my apartment.
Oh damn!
Because people were calling me, going, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm in Louisiana. What's wrong?" They go, "Dude, your apartment got hit." I'm like, "By what? A tornado? Fuck you! No, it didn't. Son of a bitch! Seriously? Fuck." Because I've been in a tornado before. I have a whole story about when I was like 9, 10, or in 6th grade or whatever. I had to deal with a tornado and it was terrifying. So I get it. But the people in here, it made sense because I know those people.
Well, no, here's the thing: if people are like, if they don't respond to sirens, or if they thought they heard something, looked up and didn't see anything, I get it that they'd be just kind of numb to it. But everyone in this movie, and I thought this through the whole movie, and I've had friends who reviewed it who said the same thing in their reviews, is like, apparently no one in Oklahoma and Tornado Alley knows what to do in a tornado except for like our team of like 8 people, because they basically go from town to town telling people, you have to get to shelter, you have to get in a basement, while the rest of people just run around with their heads cut off, like no one knows what to do unless they direct them, and they keep going, oh, we have to go and help save these people. It's like, well, shouldn't they know to fucking go in a basement? They live here.
Yeah, but if there are people who don't normally have to deal with tornadoes, they just hear a siren but nothing ever fucking comes, you get those people who maybe never had to live with one or ever had to actually deal with one, except for the
tornado alley. I'm sure they're taught on a daily basis what to do in the case of a tornado.
Taught, but how many times are you taught what to do in a certain situation and you're like, blow it off, and then as soon as it fucking happens, you're like, oh my god, I don't fucking remember what happened in 3rd grade when my teacher told me what to do during a tornado drill. It's just, it is what it is. I chalk that up to just, people in the moment, scared, terrified, not knowing what the fuck to do, and then just going fucking stupid about
but
it.
Also when 3 tornadoes have already hit that day or the previous 2 days, they're still like, no, let's still have our rodeo, let's still have our movies, let's still have our baseball game. It's like, there's a fucking giant storm right there.
I mean, and once again, in the Midwest, that isn't going to cancel anything. It's not. You're still going to go about your fucking day. Why? Because if we had to stop everything that we did because there was a threat that a tornado might come, then nothing would ever happen or get done. Because that's what it's like there. It's just fucking go on with your day. If something happens, then be fucking quick about it. But you know what? That's the way it is in Nebraska. And I'm sure Oklahoma's right below Nebraska. So I'm sure, well, it's right below Kansas. But that's the way it is there. If you constantly worried about storms, nothing would ever get done. You'd have no baseball because everything would be canceled. You would never have anything.
This unusual was the biggest outbreak in like 30 years, supposedly. So
yeah, it was like a generational storm kind of thing. But yes, my whole problem with the whole opening was that Dorothy was there, which proved throughout the movie that nothing that they amounted to in the first film mattered, because the warning system is not better. And then the whole focal point of what Anthony Ramos's character is doing is basically trying to do a updated version of Dorothy with these pylons to basically try to add those to buildings and stuff like that. And so it's like, okay, so they're just redoing Dorothy. Okay, but clearly that didn't help because fucking Dorothy didn't do the damn job the first time out. And of course, you watch it, and also I felt like, and granted, I will defend this to a point, I thought the special effects at the very beginning were shit. I thought the tornado looked like ass. But in defense, every time we looked at the tornado in the beginning, it was inside the car through the windshield.
Well, that's what I think is, like, you're talking about how, in the first movie, like, you could see the tornadoes, and this one was more just kind of but I feel like this movie made a conscious choice to kind of put you in the situation where, a few times they saw it off in the distance, but mostly it was like, you're here in the tornado, you're just seeing wind and debris, and like, if you're really in the situation, you wouldn't have a clear view of it. You'd be watching fucking debris and dust and stuff everywhere. So I thought it was more realistic, even though you weren't able to see as much. I thought that was just a conscious choice that they made there.
Actually, I'm not against that. I'm just saying it's more prominent in Twister. But yeah, like I said, that first 15, 20 minutes just was not working for me. And I was immediately going, oh shit, I know exactly what Brian and Amaru were talking about. I was like, oh man.
Well, I also feel like in the original one, they have the prologue, when Jo was a little girl and her father, was sucked up in the tornado. But that was like a 2-3 minute scene. And this one, like, the prologue was like 15 minutes long, and you're like, Can we get to the main movie, please?
I will still fight to this day that her dad in the first one would not have died if he just would have sat the fuck down.
If he went down where they were,
he would have sat the fuck down and not gotten fucked with the door. He would have been alive the whole fucking time.
The door went off with him, and apparently they didn't get sucked out.
Exactly.
They were totally fine. What happened to her mom? I don't know.
I'm assuming she eventually died. Yeah. Like I say, for the longest time when I was a kid, I thought Aunt Meg was the mom. And I was like, well, no, they call her Aunt Meg. So where the fuck's her mom? I was like, well, your mom just probably died eventually at some point. But they never mentioned the mom ever again, which I always thought was weird. But yeah, I mean, I thought when it was around Tyler, obviously the movie was a lot more fun. Of course it was. I mean, he's driving into a fucking tornado, shooting fireworks off into the motherfucker. Like, I didn't think to do that, but that's cool. Here's my worry.
I'm waiting to hear when first person dies trying to do that now.
I was like, we're gonna have so many fucking idiots now trying to do that shit, coming into my store trying to buy augers to attach to their truck because they think that's gonna fucking work and crap. And which, granted, it was in the trailer, but I was like, that's clever. But eventually, if you're digging that into grass and the rain is going, it makes the ground soft, which is exactly what happened with Kate at the end. I want to
say the augers and the fire tornado were both already done in Into the Storm, which is an underrated first-person tornado movie. Just saying.
Never saw it. Mainly because of what's her name from Walking Dead is the lead, and I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to watch her in it. But Rick Grimes' wife in The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, okay. I was sorry. She's not the lead, but
I thought, well, it focused just like with the merchandising for Twister, it focuses on Glenn Powell like he's the lead in the movie, and then much like it did for that, it focused on her being the lead in that. But yeah, it was just, I had a lot of fun with it. I did like that we got to see the corporate side of it instead of seeing the wild card side. I felt like we could see both sides.
I liked where they kind of subverted expectations because the movie starts off and it's like, instead of this time where like the rebels, the what do you call them, the wild cards?
I call them the wild cards, yeah.
In the first one, like they were our heroes, and the corporate schlubs, they were kind of the bad.
They were the bad guys without actually being bad.
Right.
They're just assholes.
They were the antagonists, I guess. But in this one, I'm like, oh well, okay. In this one, it's like the people that work for the corporate, they're actually the good guys, and like the wild cards are kind of the fucking YouTube morons that are just are just getting in the way.
What I was worried about too is
they're the antagonists. But then, of course, later on in the movie, they end up subverting that and saying, "Oh, the corporate guys really are evil."
Well, yeah, because I was worried about that too, because you kept seeing all these people surrounding Tyler, and they all kept running out. I'm like, these people are going to get in the way, and they're going to die, or they're going to cause something that's going to cause problems. But they never did. They love to be there, but they kept their fucking distance. Yeah, I was worried about that at first. Yeah, you're gonna have some idiot driving up and like causing them to fuck up like their pylon things or their Wizard of Oz drone thingies, whatever you want to call them.
But real briefly, her drone, Lily's drone, that thing's so lightweight. How does that not get fucking blown out of the sky as soon as it gets anywhere near?
That thing looks like it's just a fucking hang glider. that thing probably went.
It takes it and tosses it up, so it's really light. It's like that thing would get like not even within 300 yards of that thing before it blow off somewhere. Anyway,
I don't know, but yeah, I was kind of surprised by that too. I was like, that thing is durable as shit. Like, good job. Like, hey, they're scientists, we're not. Maybe they found.
I'm not even talking durable. I'm talking being able to like travel in against the wind.
But see, here's my other problem that I had with it too. Is like, so Kate's idea is shooting sodium fluoride up into it to choke out, kill the tornado and all that kind of stuff. Which, in theory, obviously, in the movie theory, it works. But at the end of the day, what are you gonna do with that information? You're not going to have every town in Tornado Alley have that much sodium fluoride and those rockets to shoot to cause rain. Like, what? Like, yes, cool. You know how to kill it. And you're not going to hire people like Tyler to go drive into the fucking tornado when a tornado shows up.
That's the sequel, Twister 3.
It's like, where's the end game for this? Like,
well, I think it's more a matter of a theoretical idea of that tornadoes can be dissipated or tamed or however you want to put it.
But at what cost?
And so it's like and so like the end of the day, it's not like, oh, okay, we've cured tornadoes, no more tornadoes ever. They basically establish she's going to go back and present this research, and it'll continue, and the research will continue based on these new findings. So I don't think it's an end all solution, but it's kind of like, hey, maybe this is a stepping stone where we can find ways to do
Are you
something.
gonna
Like,
add like missile silos on the buildings to shoot the shit at the tornado when it comes in? Like, but you can't.
no, but I mean, like you could have like they do, like they talk about what do you call it, seeding the clouds. They're talking about with the stuff to make it rain. Maybe they could find a way to, like, if they see the conditions for a tornado, they can see that and make it,
Yeah,
not
but
happen.
you can't. But you see how much sodium fluoride she had to use just to choke out a tornado. Like they can't condense that into something that small.
Like I said, this is just, I think it was
like
a lot of theories and research and trying to figure out something, because they got, they're trying to do something. But
yeah, like I said, cool, awesome that you pulled that off. But in hindsight, what are we fucking gonna do with this information?
I meant to Google that. I'm pretty sure that there's no way this would work anyway. But yeah,
I don't. Well, I mean, that's just that's movie science for you. But I thought the rodeo tornado, that whole sequence. Which did you not? I mean, you may not have known this. The asshole that was the asshole complaining customer at the hotel. That was Bill Paxton's son.
okay, I knew Bill Paxton was in there somewhere. I didn't know where.
Well, I think his name's Jake or something like that.
Yeah,
or Jack.
I thought maybe he was like the guy at the rodeo that, like, waved off to him.
No, he was the asshole who got killed because he was just being a douche. I don't want to give you a bad Yelp review. Yeah, that was because I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's the asshole. Okay. But yeah, I thought that whole sequence with the swimming pool and them doing that, I thought that was great. And then of course the whole movie theater sequence, which call back to the first one with the drive-in. I love that the screen got ripped out and then they were basically like watching the tornado like a fucking movie as they were trying to not be sucked out. I thought that whole visual was fantastic. I love
kind of
that.
Call back to them watching The Shining at the drive-in. And I got
exactly. But I mean, my girlfriend was calling out all these callbacks. Like Tyler uses a red Dodge. That's the same thing Bill Paxton had in the movie. The corporate groups weren't driving white trucks instead of black trucks because they're not necessarily bad guys in this. They're just, so they're like trying to help, but they're still douchey in a way. I didn't necessarily care for the whole like subplot of the guy buying the land thing. I don't think that really went much anywhere. I mean, it just showed kind of where their money was coming from. I'm glad they didn't like hunker down on that storyline because I really didn't give a flying fuck about that.
I think it was mainly just to give Anthony Ramos a storyline, essentially.
I think it was more or less just to find a way to get her away from Anthony Ramos and with Tyler. I think that was more. It was just more to find a situation to get her to make sense to leave him and go towards that side of the group. Mm-hmm. So that way they were on camera more. I did like the British reporter guy. I didn't think I was going to like him, but I actually enjoyed his character throughout, just kind of being that like fly in the wall, not.
I felt like he was kind of the Jamie Gertz of this one, whereas he's kind of not one of the team members. He's a regular guy, so and that's how they used him, because they have to have somebody who doesn't know the science, so they have somebody that the science explained to them.
That way, yeah, so that way they
the audience.
Exactly. So that way they can exposition us.
Yeah, they're our surrogate, basically. Yeah.
But I love that he didn't like freak out and run away. He like embraced it and got like a tornado tattoo and shit. And like people were leaving during the credits. I'm like, guys, this is like they're still showing like important shit through this. Like they're showing his article and all this stuff. And I heard people were mad about the that they didn't kiss at all in the movie. And it's like it wasn't needed. Like the romance was there without it having to be beaten over our heads. I felt like her line at the end was like, if you feel it, chase it. And then him digging into the fucking parking lot and then going in. I thought all that was incredibly well done. And then they have their moment and then, hey, back to work. Tornado is coming. And they fucking walk out of the airport.
I agree. Because I think that to have them like suddenly, kissing or something in the middle of this movie, I think would have felt out of place, because it's like, okay, you can start to see an attraction between them, but it's not until like after everything's passed and like, okay, now we can kind of see where this is going.
I mean, Tyler had it from like the first second. Like as soon as you see Tyler's like hot chick, she knows weather, I want to be with her. But you didn't see her attraction towards him for a while, if at all, till the very end.
Like Anthony Ramos the whole time going, I love you too.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like I was like, I don't think that was ever where did this crush come from? But it's okay.
I think it was pretty obvious in the beginning. It's like he had a thing for her, but it was like,
well, in the beginning, he was just kind of the drunk party guy who was like, I'm gonna go puke, kind of thing. So I didn't feel like that was ever really there. But yeah, like so I really enjoyed it. I thought it did exactly what it set out to do. My theater was packed for it. I hope it does a shitload of money and It is great.
It's doing like 75 million this weekend.
Fantastic. But yeah, you guys kind of put me in like a negative mindset going into it because of you and Rue and
well,
like, I got out of it.
I've even gone back in since then
Yeah.
and edited my review because it's like I realized that even though I wasn't being negative, I was just, I was saying what I meant, but it came across more negative than I wanted it to. And it's like I didn't mean that at all. And like I said, a lot of it just comes down to the Furiosa problem, where it's like you're being compared against something you're never going to live up to because it's like a classic. And and this doesn't live up to the first one, but like I said, I edited my review because it sounded harsher than it was, because I really did enjoy this one quite a bit.
Yeah, it's right now. It is like right at the back end of my top 10 for the year. It definitely
it's like my number 3 at the moment.
It won't stay there because like an 84 that'll get you into the top 10, but you will drop out of the top 10 pretty fast. Hell, by next week with Deadpool and Wolverine, it could easily be at number 11 by the time they come in. I think it's like 9 or 10 right now in the year for me. But I mean, like I said, I had a blast with Twister. I was happy with it. I can't wait to watch it again. And it being a Warner Brothers film, it's probably going to pop up on Max here in like, 2-3 months? And then we'll be able to watch it as many times as we want. But yeah. But what were your guys' thoughts? Did you guys like Twisters? Did you guys like it as much as the first one, or better, or worse? Or did you guys think it sucked? If you guys think it sucked, I kind of am interested in why you thought it sucked. But Glenn Powell, I said this to my girlfriend. The moment that he walked out in the white shirt and cowboy hat, I'm like, there's his 60th Man of the Year award shot right there. Yeah, he's the new Matthew McConaughey, is what she said. Because like that shot right there, I was like, that's going to be the thing that he's going to win People's Sexiest Man of the Year. And it's going to be that shot right fucking there. Because he's now going to be like whoosh, into the hemisphere, which yay for us, because we've been calling this for a while.
Yeah, and he's already got like 5 more movies lined up already, so yeah.
He's supposed to like be in, you said Running Man, and then he's also supposed to redo Backdraft and shit. Other people, someone made a joke, and I thought it was actually pretty funny, that he should since he's doing Backdraft and he just did Twister, that he needs to do an earthquake movie, and then he needs to remake Waterworld, and then he could be the Hollywood Avatar, because he would have he'd be Captain Planet at that point, because he would have all of it, kind of thing, which I thought was kind of funny. But
well, they just released there's a book from Michael Crichton and James Patterson because Patterson finished it because Mike Crichton died, but called Eruption, and like there was a Hollywood bidding war to see who would get the movie rights to this, and they bought that, so maybe he'll be in a volcano movie.
Yeah, so he'd be in a volcano movie. We haven't had a volcano movie, I think, since Volcano, honestly. But yeah, let us know what you guys thought in the review. We hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Crusaders. And of course, we're going to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we have a big, massive Movie Crusaders chat about. It's been a few weeks, and we have some really big trailers, and we have a lot of movies that we have talked and that we have watched that we're going to give you kind of reviews for, as well as some TV shows. So we're going to be back for that. And out on the channel right now, our MCU Part 2, where we deep dive into the top TV shows rankings for the MCU, as well as the State of the Union on how we think the MCU is right now and where we think we're going into Deadpool and Wolverine, with Comic-Con coming up as well. We might be doing another show after that, because we're going to get a shitload of information showing up after this upcoming weekend. But yes, and then, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine is next week. Brian and I will both be back for a review for that, because why the fuck wouldn't we? But anyway, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskug. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.